Well, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Julia Royston of BK Royston Publishing, Royal Media and Publishing, and the coaching community, the Book Business Bosses, where I help you get your message to the masses, turn your words into wealth, and be a book business boss. I am also the host of Live Your Best Life and the Book Business Boss Show on envision-radio.com. And I'm super excited to be here with two other hosts shows on envision-radio.com, where praise meets talk. You can listen to us, download our free app, the Google Play Store. So the Android people, yay, Tim Android, download the free app. And you can also listen where podcasts are heard. So we're everywhere. We're on Apple. We're everywhere you want to be. So put in our shows, go to envision-radio.com where praise meets talk, but you can hear some phenomenal inspirational music as well as some informational and very informative shows. So I want to first introduce my panel that I have with me today. And we'll start off. I want them to introduce themselves, tell us where they're from, tell us where people can find them on social media, as well as their website. We'll start with you, Pastor Savaskia Bray Pope.
Hello, thank you, Julia. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show this evening. It's always a blessing to be with you. So, I am Pastor Savaskia Pope. I am an entrepreneur. I am a business boss. I'm a coach. I'm an author, helping to come and change individuals' lives and help them to have better financial habits. So I am glad to be with you today. I am in Louisville, Kentucky, and we're the great home of the Kentucky Derby. It's going to be
Watch
live
out now,
this
watch
year.
out now. I love it, I love it, I love it.
Yes, thank you.
So where can people find you on social media? And your website is up there, savaskia.com. But where can people find you on social media?
Well, obviously, you can go to my Facebook page, which is my first name, Savaskia. You can go to my IG page. I am Savaskia Pope, and you'll find me on those platforms and LinkedIn as well.
Awesome, awesome. For those of you who are listening, Savaskia is spelled SYVOSKIA.com. Yay! Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Miss Jill Pryor, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, give us your website and your social media.
Well, hi everyone. I am everyone's friendly enrolled agent, and for the last year or so, I've been the host of Life in the Tax Lane. And you can catch that show every Wednesday at 12 noon on envisionradio.com. But I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, where I operate two local tax offices, and you can find that website at syndicatetax.net. But you can also find me on social media at on Instagram at Life in the Tax Lane, or even on Facebook at Syndicate Tax Louisville. So
Let's do it. Let's do it. Wonderful, wonderful. So, the first question that, the title of our session today is talking about taxes and talking about credit and talking about building wealth. But even before we get into that, I really want to talk about defining rich and really what your definition of building wealth is, what that means to you, because even the definition of work has changed over the last 2 years. We've seen a whole lot of things totally different. The way we work, the way we're able to generate income, the way we're able to generate income. I have start businesses, and a lot of us started those businesses straight from the house. So I want to talk briefly just about the definition of rich, because I know in the faith-based community, and we're all people of faith right here. And I know if you're not a person of faith, I'm not trying to ignore you, but I know that sometimes, especially people of faith, we have an issue with rich. We have an issue with when we talk about wealth and when we're talking about money. And so the of course the scriptures that jump out at me, of course, the first one is the love of money is the root of all evil. But then the other scripture says, money answereth all things. So it can't mean we don't need money and we don't need to have it. And then there's a wealth for generations. God talks about blessing you from generation to generation. Well, yeah, I know it's blessing with long life and health and maybe some things, but it's blessing you with some monetary things, and like the wealth that King David built was ready for his son who came after him to just build the temple. He collected all the money, he got all the resources. You can't be broke and be doing that. And he wasn't going to build it, but he provided all the resources for it. So it's really not a bad thing because we need it. But some people think rich or I'm good if my as old folks just say, I ends meet. Like we're able to just, I got a roof, I got food, I got somewhere to sleep, it's warm, I can turn the light switch on, and I'm good. That wealth thing scares us. Why? Pastor Pope, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not afraid of money. And the Bible says that in Deuteronomy, he will give us the power to create wealth. He said he would give us the power. And he also told us that we are the head and not the tail. And we're supposed to be the lender and not the borrower. So it is biblically already there listed. So, when you think about rich, obviously, we see the wealth of the riches. They say that the wealth of the riches is laid up for the righteous. That's also in the word of God.
Right.
But, rich is multiple things. Obviously, rich is having the necessary resources that you need, but you should have more than enough. Riches is having enough that you can help your family and that you can build your legacy. And I don't want to go too deep, but if we think about in the last 50 years, how women just had an opportunity to even just get property in their own name. But look at all the millionaires of women have come in the last 50 years.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with being rich, but I think rich is also being healthy. I think it's healthy. I think it's wealthy. And I think it's your mindset. Because so many times we have a poverty mindset and we think that we don't just deserve to have. Now, I'm a pastor, I'm in the ministry. I teach this stuff to my congregation that nobody in here should have bad credit. And we'll talk about that more. And so it's having that poverty mindset.
Yeah.
And we feel that we shouldn't have what we deserve. Well, guess what? I think everybody ought to desire to be a millionaire. I think everybody should want more than what they have. If we look back at our ancestors, and most of us, particularly in the African American community, and what we didn't have, we ought to want. Now that we know, now that we've been educated, because there's different platforms are talking about how we need to build wealth. So I know you've heard it on one platform or another. The point is, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. Jill?
Gosh, I mean, to really echo off of, Pastor Savaskia, I think to me, building wealth is synonymous with creating a legacy for yourself, right? I mean, it's financial independence, definitely, but I think it's also experience, and I think it's credibility, and I think it's maybe a few other ingredients, that you have to toss into this bowl for it to become what it will be, right? And I think when you think about the term rich, right, it's relative to the person that that it's meaningful to. But if you were thinking about just money, I think that rich means having more than what you need, like enough to last through 2 generations after you. Like your kids don't have to worry about money for college or the rent being paid because the house has been owned and in the family for, more than just the first generation, right? I think it's just not having that worry that you know how I think when people are chasing wealth, right? When we're all trying to build wealth, it's because of that FOMO, that fear of missing out, that fear of not having enough money, right? And I
Right.
think when you don't have that fear, you're rich.
Right. Yeah. And then of course it doesn't mean just the exterior. It doesn't mean I've got all this jewelry and I've got all these cars, and that's what we
Yeah.
associate with being wealthy. But I was at an event recently, and the gentleman, he just looked like any other a gentleman anywhere else. But I wouldn't have, if you said he's going to pull out a Black American Express card, I would have told you, no, I ain't betting on that. Oh no, he's getting ready, and he did. So his wealth
Okay.
was built. His wealth was somewhere else. His wealth, he had built it on other things. It wasn't the clothes he wore, the sneakers he had on his feet, the hat he had on, the shirt. He was not caring none of about that, because he now had, and I know we're going to be talking about this with you, Pastor Pope. He had credit. He had the ability to pull out.
OPM.
Yeah, yeah.
OPM.
He had that kind of wealth that
Yeah.
it would meet the needs of what he wanted. And there was a company who said, "We're willing to give you a card that says we trust you." We were getting ready to give you a card that well, after he did that, I was like, well, I don't know what he got. I don't know what's going on, because it wasn't necessarily exterior. It wasn't mean that the man looked like he was homeless on the street. It was just, what you associate with, stuff flinging him. And so most of the time when you got to wear your wealth, usually sometimes that doesn't always,
It doesn't measure up.
it didn't always necessarily say you have it. You
Right.
might be, as they say, well, poor up to your eyes and your ear. I mean, you just might be in debt. And that may definitely in this day and time is not a good thing, because
Yeah.
income and all of that. But I just point out that wealth is being able to pass not only your money to the next generation, but to your ideas, that work ethic, that, just the way you do things, and relationships can really, today, relationships can make or break what you do, and how you live, and how much access you're going to have. Having that kind of access just can just do a lot of things. So I challenge you, and not Pastor Pope or Ms. Jill Pryor. I challenge those that are listening, those that are going to be watching on the replay, write down what you feel like. Define building wealth for you. What are you building? What are you building around? Is it just entertainment? Is it just I want to go to the next club? I want to go to the next show. And I have nothing against concerts and entertainment any day. But what else? What will you leave if you died tomorrow? God forbid. But if you die tomorrow, what will you have to show for it?
Yeah. Do you have a will?
Right. What do you have to show for? What did you leave? What's in your? Do you have a will? Do you have? What do you have? What have you done with the opportunities that you've been given? What do you have to show for? Whether it's in a tin can, on coffee can on top of your refrigerator, whether it's in a lockbox in the bank, if it's, what does that look like? And define that for you and your family. We can't tell you a number. I can't tell you, oh, you're rich if you have 6 figures, or you're rich if you have 10 figures. I can't tell. I can't define rich and building wealth for you. But I do know this, what it looks like when we don't have enough to bury you, and we have to have GoFundMe, etc. When we don't have enough to even, put you in the ground. I do know what that looks like. I've seen that. We see that on social media all the time. So build wealth by providing for your family now, and thinking about what are you going to do for that next generation. Even if you have no biological children like me, what are you going to leave to your nieces, your nephews, and all of that good stuff, and what happens? Okay. All righty. I am going to start off with Ms. Jill Pryor, and we'll be back to discuss more. And let me put up your. All right. Now, about this time of year, the tax lady who we kind of dreading it. I mean, we love you and we appreciate you being here, but you got to catch us up to speed. I have two. So tell us, Ms. Jill Pryor, what we need. What are the tax breaks for 2022? Okay, I lost my sound. I lose your sound. Can you hear me? I lost it. Okay, go ahead. Jill, I lost you. How'd I lose? Can you hear me? Okay, but I can't hear you. What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to Pastor Pope. I'm go out and come back in. How about that? Pastor Pope, I'm gonna go with you. I don't know what happened
Oh,
to
yeah, I understand.
Jill Pryor, but we'll be back. I know technical difficulties, but we're gonna keep on. This train's gonna keep on moving.
We're
All
going to keep
right.
on moving it. Yes. Yes, we will. I was, as I was waiting as you was talking to, I was just a couple of things came across my mind is, a lot of people need to desire wealth and they really need to have a wealth creation plan to really get them on track. And that just really kind of crossed my mind because I will say that wealth, my own personal testimony was that when you have financial freedom, it'll give you the ability to leave the job that you don't want anymore.
Right.
So wealth creation different.
And it also give you peace of mind too, as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we have all kinds of issues that can arise. I mean, it will not eliminate trouble, but it will give you peace of mind that, if somebody says it's $2 and you have the two, and you may have four, or you may have eight, but if it says it's $2 and you got four on you, okay, I can freely give the $2 that is required. And I know that's a low number and that's not a realistic number for some operations. That's just a simple example. But having that, being able to do that is really, really, really incredible and really important. And one of the things that I know you work with very, very closely, which helps with wealth building and helps even with access, is building credit. And so building credit versus repairing credit. What's the difference? Because I know I didn't realize at a younger age how important credit was. I'm just shopping. I'm just
I
buying.
already know.
I'm just buying. I'm just like, I gotta have an outfit for this next conference. I gotta have the matching shoes and bag, and in my faith, I had to have the hat with it too, and the hose and the stockings and I had to have it, and that didn't matter to me because I wanted to look a certain way, I wanted to dress a certain way, and so just charge it. I'll figure out how to pay for it later, and then realizing, wait a minute, I was risking a lot doing that, but I was young and done. I know better now, but building your credit versus repairing your credit, what's the difference?
Yeah. So just want you to know I've done the same thing. That's why I'm teaching you now.
Okay, so I don't feel so bad now.
You are not by yourself. So building credit, it involves applying for new trade lines to be added to your credit report. So let's use the example of someone that doesn't have any credit and they want to build credit. Typically, if they have no credit, they want to get a secured credit card, right? That gives them a trade line. Lenders want to make sure that you're going to pay them back. And so credit is entrusting you to that lender that you're going to pay that money back. So a secured credit card is for someone's new to credit. Also, credit reporting your rent to the credit bureau is another trade line that you can use to build your credit. So it's using credit products that gives you and create a history. Think of it as a job you've never worked before. Now you're trying to build your resume. So you've got to go work for somebody, even if you volunteer for them. Well, that's the same way it is with credit. You've got to get something on your trade line in your history. Now, credit repair is different. We're talking about looking at your credit history to determine what items are in need of dispute, they're inaccurate, or you've got some debts that need to be negotiated on your credit report. So credit report repairing saying that we have to fix your credit. You're not able to obtain, for instance, home ownership because there's some error on your credit history that is you're getting a negative items on your credit. And so it's not normally positive. Credit repair is negative items. And sometimes those items are true and sometimes those items are not true. As a matter of fact, 85% of your negative items on your credit history is untrue, which is why as a consumer, you want to make sure that you're having those items disputed. You want to make sure you're pulling that credit report. So that's the difference. Yeah. So repairing credit is so essential. I've seen people that just had just recently one negative item that stopped her from purchasing her home because it's showing negative. And such a blessing because we were able to get it fixed for her. So I'm excited now she can go ahead and purchase her home.
Wow. Some of people, I'm noticing in certain areas, it's just not even purchasing a home. You can't rent an apartment unless your credit is at a certain number. I mean, so that, that is amazing. And I really, young people who's like, oh, I'll just get an apartment. I'll just move out. Well, boo, your credit, they do run it. They do run it. And if it's not a certain level or you've been playing around like I did.
At least even in home ownership, well, there are some industries may take as low as a 585, but remember, there's credit unions that do that, but the lower your interest rate, the lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate. But to get a really, really good interest rate, you want to have at least a 700 credit score. Now, it doesn't mean you can't purchase a home without that 700, but that's going to give you a better interest rate.
Yeah, you're just going to be paying more, and you may be paying longer, and so that is just. I mean, it's just like it's like your reputation. You wouldn't want your reputation to be tainted so that it doesn't provide you. It locks you out. It as they say, you have to pay higher fees or a higher tax or whatever it takes. It would take more to be able to have access to certain basic things that everybody has access to.
Can I give you a quick example before I got working on my credit? Back in 2018, I was driving around in a 24% interest truck. I hated it. And well, in a blessing in disguise, somebody totaled my truck. And I got with working with my credit and went in to get me a new car, a Nissan. And the guy said, I wasn't prepared to put no money down today. So I just need you to get me a vehicle. And I came out of there with a 2019 and no down payment. And my car payment was $100 cheaper than my 2011 because of good credit. So I saved $100 on my payment a month and was driving an 8-year, was less than a newer vehicle, upgraded by 8 years.
Won't he do it? Won't God upgrade you? Yeah, but you got they got to upgrade you, but you got to watch. If your credit's not in order, you might. So you said a 700 is the optimal.
You want to get in the 700 club.
700. So how? Okay, so since the COVID world, how important is having that? I mean, we've seen your example. But even in other examples, how important is that good credit? Can it stop you from getting a job if your credit's not at a certain level?
It can. I actually had a client that actually worked with the Census Bureau. And 2 years after he had started, it took him they pulled his credit. And he came through our program. If he didn't get it, it was just minimal, but the fact is the employer pulled it. And if he didn't get it fixed, he could have lost his job. So credit will, in fact, have an impact on the employer. Now, COVID, there's been some pros and cons. Those who, there's a group of people who have used their credit wisely, and they've taken advantage of getting some low interest rates, and they bought up properties, right? They've been investing. They've refinanced their homes, and so on that end, COVID, that was good. But then there's other people that maybe that were unemployed. They had to use their credit cards as a cost of living to be able to pay their bills, to buy groceries, buy phones. And I noticed that question. I thought, well, let me look and see what the impact of credit was in Kentucky on credit cards. And from 2019, it was like a 0.6% in credit card use, according to Experian. Since COVID, it went to a negative 4% in credit card debt. So it moved up almost 6%.
Wow.
So what happens is with the credit cards through COVID, if you have more credit utilization usage, what that does, it will lower the credit scores if you're going over the 30%. And so some have found themselves in debt as a result of COVID using the credit cards. Now, the three bureaus were very kind for the first year of COVID. They were actually let people to come in and get all of those reports pulled for free. Typically, you can get your history, but you couldn't get a score. But during a short period of time, they allowed them to do that. So it's kind of had its pros and cons with COVID.
Right. COVID was where some people figured out how to take credit cards and how to use them even more just because they had to. But then others of us in business learned how to do some things in the digital world that, we normally would have been dealing with cash, but you can't really deal with. I mean, you can a little bit to give tips and things, but a lot of it was straight electronic, and what that actually looks like of getting credit card and taking electronic payments, period. So, right. So how does that affect in with businesses and all of that for your credit, making sure that what level of discipline do we need for handling credit cards?
I think it's credit and money management. It all goes together. Credit, money management, budgeting, and your spending habits, right? Is it something you really need to purchase, or can you wait? Does it have to happen now, or can you do it later? Because remember, you said earlier you was shopping like I did. You can buy now, but you're gonna pay later.
Yeah, you're gonna pay for it, and you got to be ready to pay for it. And when you have a surprise such as COVID, and your income eliminates, and you're like, what? And we're not. But I mean, but for some whose jobs continued, and then they didn't have to drive, they ate out of the refrigerator, they cooked from home, they weren't doing out of office lunches, they weren't doing that. They actually had an increase in income.
So they did, but wait a minute, Julia. They were shopping online.
Yeah, that's true. I was too.
They were door dashing.
Yeah, and Uber.
So the more disciplined did just what you said. But
true.
the undisciplined were online shopping and door dashing.
Right. So it does go into money management, and definitely. So we want to be good, as they say, we want to be good stewards of our credit, because that good credit it can bless you. It can make a difference in night and day. It can make a difference in paying the 24% or paying 8 or 9 or 6 or 7, whatever that looks like for you. For those of you who want to have an evaluation of your credit or help with that or programming, go to the website Savaskia.com, and please reach out to her. Get your credit in order. As I say, it's no blame game, no shame over here. We're not doing none of that. Nobody's going to be doing I told you so, you should have. We're not doing that. All we're doing is let's move forward in a positive light, so that we can get the credit situation taken care of, so that we can live our best life, so that we can build that wealth, so that we can have the life that we need, especially in these and definitely in these changing times. So thank you very much.
You're
And
welcome.
we're going to move from credit. We're going to move to taxes. Miss Jill, are you there? Okay, I have to come back. Mr. Marshall, are you ready, sir? Yay! How are you? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Julia?
MarshallYourMoney.com. We're so glad you're joining us this evening. So, if you would introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, and I have your correct website, right? MarshallYourMoney.com.
That is correct.
Yay!
All right. Well,
right.
I am James Marshall, president and owner of Marshall Wealth Management, which is a registered investment advisory firm that specializes in comprehensive financial planning. We've been doing this for over 33 years. I'm originally from Louisville, the West End, 42nd and Broadway. I went to West Kentucky University, Valley High School, Shawnee Junior High School, MLK Elementary, the whole 9 yards.
King, come on, King.
But King, first ones there, as a matter of fact.
I was gonna say
ones.
King, yeah.
First ones. And now we're living in Houston, Texas. But we have offices in Louisville and in Houston, clients in both states, and clients all over the country for that matter.
Awesome.
And what we do is we just help people build wealth from just managing the money to lowering the taxes to actually planning for retirement and estate planning, legacy planning as well.
Okay, so we earlier talked about what their definition of building wealth is. So what's your definition of building wealth?
Well, my definition, wealth is relative. Everyone sees wealth differently. To you, Julia, it might be $25 million. To me, it might be 50 million. It might be 2 million. Wealth is when you can live the way you want to live without being stressed. If you can live off of the interest that you earn on your investments, you're wealthy. So if you have $1 million and you can live off of $30,000 a year, which is 3%, you're never going to touch that principal. That's wealth. When you're making $60,000 a year, but spending $70,000 a year, that's just the opposite of wealth. If you've got an income of $1 million a year, but you're spending $1.5 million, you're not wealthy either. I mean, you're struggling just like a person who's making $25,000 but spending $30,000. So wealth is relative, but the dictionary would say someone who has over $1 million in assets and at least $250,000 a year in income.
250,000. That's the bar for wealth.
As a matter of fact, it takes about $250 a year in income to be an accredited investor.
Gotcha.
So that's a good guideline to use in terms of looking at a wealth picture.
All right.
But wealth is separate from your income. Just keep that in mind. You see a lot of people in Kroger's right there on 26 and Broadway running around with a wealth of over $1 million. Or they may even have $300,000 or $400,000 in assets and only need $1,800 a month to live off of. That's wealth. They're not going to use those assets up. So it is relative.
Right. Well, that's what, I always have people. I have everything I need. I have a roof over my head, all my ends meet. My lights is not going off. I'm good. So I'm wealthy, especially if you're comparing yourself with previous generations who, didn't have money enough to bury themselves or did, spend bouts of not being able to be self-sufficient. But that's good to know. I told the example of, I saw a gentleman and, he didn't look like he would be homeless on the street, but I was just looking at him on the outside. Okay. I didn't know what his status was. I didn't know what he was doing. And he pulled out a Black American Express. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, wait a minute. Hold on now. this takes it to a totally different level.
Mhm.
What his wealth is, that wasn't none of my business and nothing to ask. But he clearly was not. It wasn't like you say. He wasn't trying to be wealthy, flossing and showing wealth on the outside. He wanted to be able to do what he wanted to do and live how he wanted to live and move how he wanted to move. And so that's the individual affair, and that's something to really think about, in this day and time to decide. And I challenge others to really sit down and think about that and determine that. So I gotta know, you got 100 wealth building secrets, but I just need three of them. Three things that we really, with the high gas prices, we know we're in a recession. It's just costs more right now. So three things about building wealth in a recession and these clearly high gas prices. What does that look like? What do we should be doing?
Well, basically, you should be budgeting your money. High prices, high gas prices. We've been here before. It won't last that long. It is something that is happening. You will see more inflation this year for sure because more people are employed. We're almost at full employment since coming out of the pandemic. So when you have a lot of people employed, they're making money and they're spending money, and the economy is growing faster. And when the economy is growing faster, the cost of things go up, and that's inflation. And the way that the federal government kind of controls that inflation is by slowing down the economy. And the way to slow down the growth of the economy is to raise interest rates, make loans harder to get, make money harder to get so that you don't grow as fast. That's one of the things that they'll do. And you're going to see interest rates go up at least 4 or 5 times this year. So that home that you wanted to buy is going to cost a little bit more because the interest rates are a little bit higher. You might be employed, but your income won't grow as fast as inflation is growing this year. It may do better next year, but this year, if inflation's at 6%, you're not going to see a 6% pay increase.
No,
So
it's gonna be one or
yeah,
two, maybe three,
yeah, if that much.
if that. Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you're budgeting your money, know what's coming in versus what's going out. I also realize that this thing that we have now with inflation and with the situation with Russia is that it presents an opportunity to make some investments in stocks that you like that cost less now. We are not in a true recession. Matter of fact, the economy is doing very well. So you want to look past the immediate things that are happening. It makes it feel like things are not good, but really things are moving along really well. And you want to take advantage of investing in your 401k, your 403b, not worrying about the fact that it's in a negative return right now. Keep investing in it, keep your cash reserves up, and pay down your debt.
Pay down. All right. So we got our we got our marching orders. We need to, as they say, stay the course and budget our money. Don't panic. Don't push the panic button. And don't do any of that, but just stay the course. Keep saving. Keep paying down your debt. Now I got to ask about the next generation. How are we going to do it so that we don't pass on our bad habits from the previous generation? What do we need to do to start early with our children?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we're leaving money for our children. Too many people in our community are not maintaining the proper amount of life insurance. You may buy a policy and let it drop because you got downsides at work. That's not the solution. Budget that in. Budget the cost of that life insurance. Have life insurance and keep life insurance. Most people need at least $1 million in life insurance. That will be enough to replace your income for 7 years or 18 years if you have a young child. And give your significant other an opportunity to pay off the mortgage if they choose to, and provide money for your child's education. That $1 million is going to be passed on to your family tax-free, income tax-free. So that gives them a place to start. So they're not starting over again in the race every time. Right. Now you want to educate your children on how to utilize that money, how to save that money, how to invest that money, how not to go into the principal, but only use the interest. And you can do that by just getting books for them to read. We have a book that's available on Kindle called Many Moguls Lessons in Money Management. that'd be a good book for them to read. But there's a lot of different books. The Federal Reserve of Dallas has an excellent collection of books that teaches kids about how to save money, how the economy works. That's a good place to start as well. But just common sense, just talk to them the way your grandmama talked to you. Don't spend your last dime. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't spend more than you have. Credit is not your friend. If you just instill that in these kids, as soon as they can ask you for 50 cents to buy something, you start talking to them about money.
Exactly. Okay, so I have a question. Miss Ellis Faye, hello, dear. I'm glad you're with us tonight. And I do have Admiral has a question too. I'll get that one back in just a moment. But she asked, what are some of the best stocks to invest in? Now I don't know if you want to give specifics, but specific industries that you that are best to invest in.
Sure, Ellis, that's a great question. Of course, depending on your risk tolerance, and if you're a person who doesn't mind a little bit of risk, it's a great opportunity to buy things like Verizon is a good stock to buy right now. They're trading around $55 a share, 4% dividend yield. It's a good place to be. I like Kroger's. I like Apple. I like General Dynamics right now. Defense stocks are good stocks to have. But since interest rates are going up, you want to invest in companies that do well in a high interest environment, and that would be JP Morgan. That's Chase Banks. Banks do well when interest rates are up. That's a good place to go. Microsoft is a good buy right now at about $195 a share. These are companies that you know are going to be around, but you're getting them a little bit cheaper because people are nervous and selling them off. But I would start with a Verizon and a JP Morgan. Now, if you don't feel comfortable buying individual stocks right now, you can buy an exchange traded fund, an ETF. And a good one right now is the Vanguard Total Income Fund, VTI, Victor Tango India. That's a good place to buy. That's a basket of stocks. So you don't have to worry about what stocks to buy. You just own that basket itself.
VTI. Now, you're saying, I mean, it's amazing because when I was back in college and we took econ, and they really advised us. I don't even remember what the title of the class was, but anyway, it was at Bellarmine. And they were talking about investing in stocks of things that you actually use and companies that you actually know. Does that still hold true? Because the things you said, we go to Kroger, they hear. Microsoft is all my software. Those Apple, if you're in the Apple world, I'm in the Android world, Verizon, so that's right up my alley. So is it still remain true to really stick with the things that that are stable companies? Now, that startup, that's high risk. I don't know nothing about that. You need to reach out to MarshallYourMoney.com and let him advise you on that. But like the Procter and Gambles of this world and the Fords and the G that we know have been around for 50 and 60 years. Does that still hold true today? Yeah,
absolutely. Buy the lifestyle that you live. If you drive a GM, why not own GM, which is a good stock right now, trading at 6 times earnings. And if you like the electric vehicle play, that's one way to be in that market without owning Tesla. But this is the way Warren Buffett invests. He invests in things he understands. So if you understand how the company makes money, that's where you want to invest. If you don't know how they make money, you just heard it was a hot stock and all your friends got it, stay away from that. Because if you don't know what's going on, how they're going to make money, how you're going to make money from it, it's hype. And you don't want to fool with hype. Invest in how you live. Kroger's, JP Morgan, Ford, GM, GE right there in Louisville. United Healthcare. There's a lot of different companies that you're dealing with every day, brands that you love. Procter & Gamble is a great company. So yes, absolutely. Buy what you understand and invest in how you live.
Right. I was going to say Procter & Gamble is Tide, Charmin, toilet paper. I mean, those are products that we use every day, and find out about the brands that you enjoy, that you love, and that you use, and that's a part of your life. And then think about investing in them. And then VTI is the company that we need to be doing.
Well, that's an ETF, an exchange traded fund. That's like a basket of stocks.
Okay, so we're going to reach out to MarshallYourMoney.com and let him advise us on where we need to go and what we need to do. So be sure and reach out to him. I've got to get Miss Jill in. You're welcome. You're welcome, Sister Faye. You're welcome, love. And she said thank you, and
You're
a wealth of
welcome.
information. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Miss Jill, you back with me? Yay!
You're welcome.
So glad. Okay, so what are the tax breaks for 2022? What we got to do to be ready for 2022?
Back with you. Well, there's a few. Like if you have a family, this tax season is for you. There are new family tax breaks for everybody that's got kids, like the dependent care credit. It used to be a non-refundable credit. This year, if you've got your kid in for school, after school program, summer camp, daycare, things are getting expensive. And thankfully, you can get 50% of those costs back. Tax credit. This is one of those credits where people don't even realize you don't have to have income reported on your tax return to qualify for this tax credit. That's like a few grand per kid. That's just free and clear yours if you file a 2021, where they are allowing tax. You can swap out the earned income from 2019 with your earned income for 2021 so that you can get a higher earned income tax credit to beef up your tax refund this year. So it's a lot going on, especially, for families. The Biden administration really came through with the family tax breaks this year.
So if you got children, that's great. But what if you don't have no children? If you ain't got no babies, what do we get?
Well, if you don't have any kids, I hate to say it, a lot get for them, but they expanded earned income credit this year. So it used to be you had to be 24 years old to 64 years old. And if you were working under a certain amount of income, you qualify for an earned income tax credit. Well, they expanded that to include 18-year-olds all the way up to whatever age, as long as you are working with a social security number. So it used to be a single person with, just a little bit of income would probably get a max earned income credit of like $500. Well, that was increased to $1,500 this tax year. Now, we don't know if those tax breaks are going to be extended into next tax season. So you make sure that you're filing your taxes and you're taking advantage of what's out there this season.
Awesome. Okay. So the big elephant in the room, big elephant for 2 years has been the PPP loan. Lord, if I've heard once, if I've gotten an email once, I'll tell you, seeing people going to jail over PPP loan. Oh my goodness. So what is if you were able to get one and you are a legitimate business and all of that, we're not going to talk about all the other the people and all that later. But
talk about
it. What is the tax obligation for it? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Well, the Paycheck Protection Program money was such a blessing, right? If you had a small business, if you were an independent contractor that was 1099, if you were self-employed in any way, you qualified to get some free money so that your business could stay operational. And I think if you were an entrepreneur, if you were self-employed in any way with a small business, right? You qualified for this money and it was completely free to you and forgiven as long as you spent it on your business. But the biggest misconception was that was all that was needed. You guys have to file that PPP money received on your tax returns when you file and report your business income. But it's not taxable because technically you're going to write off everything that you use that money for. And it's essentially going to cancel out the amount claimed as income. It is like the biggest and best double benefit that they have offered, period.
Wow.
But they're looking for you to file that income because they know that they gave it to you, right? So
right.
Don't try
they
to
know
skirt
they
out
gave
of
it
it
to
either.
You. So most definitely you got to do it. You got to do it. All right. Go to syndicatetax.net. Reach out to Ms. Jill Pryor. Let her help you get your taxes together. We're going to be investing with Mr. James Marshall. We got to get our credit together with Pastor Savaskia Bray Pope. And I'm going to bring them back in because I've got a question. Well, first off, before I even go with everybody else's question, there was a question in the comments earlier. So this one was specifically for Pastor Savaskia. With so many people and companies advertising credit repair services online and on TV, how do you choose? That was part one. Part two is what methods of vetting should you use? And what are some red flags with credit repair? Because it's like anything else. There are some true ones and then there are some false ones. So what should they be what should people be looking for specifically?
Well, the first thing I would say in vetting is ask for referrals. Ask for referrals of customers that they have currently worked with, right? I think word of mouth marketing speaks for itself. I think looking at companies that tells you make this investment and in 21 days, we're going to wipe your credit clean. Beware of that. Because every individual person that is seeking to get credit repaired, their story is going to be different. And so it may be that someone's credit may get fixed in 30, 45 days. That may not be the case of another person's. So I don't think overpromised results is a red flag if someone tells you that. And do your homework. Google has everything out there. And so you can do some, if you're that personality, just go do some additional research on Google. But definitely, I think referrals speak for itself.
And then, they'll usually, I guess, be some complaints, of course, if there's an issue and somebody didn't get what they wanted or the guarantee was not really guaranteed, that will actually happen.
Well, I will tell you this, in most credit companies, there is going to be a complaint because you can't make 100%.
Well, I get that, but you should, if there is a complaint and there should be, as they say, 10 or 15. Oh, it worked for me. You good. So you can't go on. I mean, it's like buying anything on Amazon, same thing. It didn't fit me. Did you buy the right size? That's what did you order the right size, girl?
Well,
when you tried to squeeze into something else, you couldn't even fit.
I will tell you with our company, if we've instructed you what you need to do and you've done everything you're supposed to do, and it's nothing ever comes off and you did everything, we will refund you your money back.
That's a good. Well, that's good there too.
Yeah, we stand behind our services.
Good. Nothing's perfect. None perfect but God. So we understand that.
I hope that was helpful.
So the vetting process is that you need to vet and do your homework and know who you're getting into and referrals. Most definitely. So I am pleased to be here this evening with hosts of shows that are heard weekly on envision-radio.com. I am super excited that they're on this evening. As they say, last year was a hit. And so we're back again this year. Who knows? This will probably be an annual event for us to come back and let's have a conversation. As they say, no shame, no blame, no nothing. We're just here to spread the information on building wealth. Now, I want to transition to my last question for the entire panel, and then I want to make sure again that everybody knows how to find the shows and where to and when to listen to envision-radio.com. But my last question during COVID specifically, um, divorce tripled during the pandemic. Taxes, credit, and building wealth. How will that have an effect on people? And what do they really need to do moving forward? You know, you've suffered. I mean, a lot of people were just, I don't want to be with him. I don't want to be with her. And what that the impact that has on your life, on your taxes, on your credit, on your wealth. I think I'm going to start with Mr. James Marshall.
Okay. Well, first of all, that is something that has been increased over the last few months is the number of divorces. I would say to someone who is getting ready to go into a divorce, whether you're the one filing or you the one has been served, it's important that you take an assessment of what assets each other has. If your spouse has a pension plan, you need to be aware of that plan so that you can include that as a quadro on your divorce settlement. Because you are still able to receive that pension that your spouse had, even though you're divorced. The other thing to consider, if you need to remember, if you have $500,000 in your 401k when you first got divorced and you got a quadro agreement, and then 2 years from now, the market took that value down to 300,000, you're still obligated to that 50% of that 500,000 2 years prior. So be aware of those numbers and what should be on the table and what's not on the table. If you both have 401ks and you both want to keep hands off on the 401ks, bring it up in discussion. If you both have pensions and you don't want to touch each other's pension, bring it up in discussion. It's not a guarantee that it will be included. But if you do have it and you try to hide it, that's when you run into a problem. But then again, that's what attorneys are for. But the key thing I can say is the quadro. Take an assessment of what assets exist before the marriage, while in the marriage, so as you can fairly divide out the assets in a meaningful way.
So, Pastor, thank you. That's wonderful to think about. Divorce is such a horrible thing to think about anyway, but I mean, it's a real place.
Mhm.
If you come to that conclusion, it is a real place. So, uh, Pastor Pope, do we need to run our credits and get our credit reports during this divorce process, or is that something that automatically will happen, or you just suggest that we be able to we should do that as just a part of the process, so you know who's got what and what bank account is where and what is on there, because
Yeah.
some women and some, you know, it just all depends on how your house is run. Everything could be separate, but if you've done some things jointly, you could automatically, Mr. Royston's wonderful, but I wasn't always married to Mr. Royston. So I was
Right,
married to
right.
somebody, I was married to somebody else before. And when it came time for
Exactly.
divorce time, you know, we were both signed on the car, you know, and so when one didn't pay, it still affected my credit too. So, you know, looking at that is just like, oh my gosh. And so, I mean, you know, I
Right,
don't want it to have a negative impact in any way. So, you know, I
right,
did a lot of extra work so that I could pay bills that wasn't even mine because my
right,
name was on it. So what does that look like for us? You know, what would you suggest so
right.
that we
So,
can save our credit as much as possible?
right. So, a few things. Make sure you go to my website because I have a podcast on divorce and credit that is on my site under the credit conversations. And another one, before I say I do, and then after you've already said I do. So make sure you catch those. So, first two things, credit scores are tied to your social security number, which means it's an individual credit that you have taken, right? However, during marriage, if you have gotten credit where you both signed off on something, then obviously that's going to be on your credit report. A car, you both co-signed on the car, you both signed on that house. So I like what James said. So during that divorce decree, you're going to make some an arrangement. Most of the time, people might buy the other person out, right, of the house. Could be. Don't know what your arrangement is. But the true story it is, as long as you are on that mortgage lending statement, even when you get divorced, the mortgage company is still going to see that as an indebtment, and it's going to be on your credit report unless you've made an agreement where the other person's going to buy you out, and then they have to refinance in order to get you out of that debt. I have a customer right now that has been divorced for over 10 years, and the mortgage is on her credit because the other party has not refinanced. So those are some of the critical things you have to look at, but it's tied to your individual Social Security number. I would suggest that you do find out what's on there, those credit reports, because when you do your divorce decree, they're going to name everything that's debt, right? So say somebody went and bought, I don't know, a house in another state or something. Who knows what was going on with that marriage? I'm just saying. And then you find out there's another mortgage out there that you didn't know about. So yes, you definitely want to get your credit report, and you should be looking at your credit at least every 3 to 6 months anyway, as much as possible, just to, for credit monitoring purposes. So those are some true things I know that's happening, is that it can impact you individually and collectively, depending on what you both have purchased.
Wonderful. That helps us. We don't wish divorce on anyone. I think that is just a heartbreaking. It's a death of that relationship. But we've seen, as they say, unprecedented times and everything, and we've seen a significant rise in divorce, and we just want to give you some helpful hints and tips just in case that happens, or a friend of a friend says they got something going on and they need some help with that. That's what that's about. So, Miss Jill Pryor, how are we gonna work on our taxes during divorce? What's that look like tax wise? Okay, I can't hear you, Jill. Let's see. Okay, well, let me take this question and then I'll come back to you, Jill. Okay, so we talked about this question earlier, but I don't think the person listening was on. But Pastor Pope, give us again a good credit score in 2022.
So if you're looking to purchase a house to get a lower interest rate, you want to look at least a 700 credit score. Now, it doesn't mean you can't purchase a house with a 650, but you're going to get a better interest rate if you're leasing the 700 club.
Are we still able to get our credit reports for free every year, once a year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yes. I would, tax time, all that, and just do it all at one time, and get your credit report and look at it and see where you are, and pass it along to somebody else, that information that they need to download and get their credit report, so that we can have our annual review and figure out where we are. And and I know some people are like, I don't want to fool with that. I don't know. But you don't know unless you find out. You won't know where you are and you can't fix what you won't face. I mean, I know it sounds cliche.
Right there.
You can't fix what you won't face and until you know. And some of it may be your fault, and some of it may not even be you. You might not have done it yourself. Thank you so much, love. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Lisa, how we gonna handle taxes during the divorce? Miss Jill, I'm sorry, Miss Lisa, I'm sorry. Jill, are you back with us yet? All right. Well, I'm going to move on. So first off, if there are no other questions, put questions in the comments, please. Any other questions in the comments? Any other questions in the comments? Because I'm getting ready to close it down and shut it down for the evening. This has always been very, very helpful. People always call in, and when I was thinking about the time, I said 30 minutes. I don't know, but I looked at last year's, and we were on about the same amount of time, just because people have questions, and this is. I am thankful that this is a platform with these hosts that people feel comfortable enough to ask their questions. You're welcome. I appreciate you too, love. And then I appreciate being able to have a platform and a place where people can get the information, be able to share it to the next generation, and be able to get the help that they need, or even if you don't, you're like, oh, good, I'm on the right track. Oh, am, am I having more of these in the evening? Okay. It's been a request, so I may have to have these back again when we
I'll
head
come
into.
back.
Let's think
Come
about
back.
heading into fourth quarter. Let's think about doing something like this. Does that make sense? Like heading into the end of the year, what we should be looking for the end of the year. I'm gonna throw that out there. Y'all think about it. Does that, Mr. James Marshall? Would you be willing to come back?
Evenings are always good. I'm always ready to kick out the knowledge.
I know. Well, let's do that. Especially when you think about, after summer and headed in. So we'll plan to get back together, especially when we get ready to head into fourth quarter. We get ready to talk about holiday spending. We get ready to move into taxes at the end of the year, because you're just saying, oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year. No, it might not be. Look at your money. Look at say, hold up. Wait a minute. You might not need that till the after Christmas
spending plan, holiday spending plan.
So we got our topics. So we'll see about planning that for the end of the end of the year. So tune in to these hosts. Mr. James Marshall is still held every Saturday.
Yes, correct.
Saturday at 1 p.m.
The Wealth Building Secrets.
100 Building Secrets at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, and envision-radio.com. Credit Conversations, Pastor Pope. When does
10 a.m. 10 a.m. on Saturday.
10 a.m. on Saturday morning. So get your pen and paper. So Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, you should be able to get your money right, and and get the information they're providing. Listen to the replays where podcasts are heard, and be able to get that down and get that going, so that you can not ignore a situation. You can handle a situation. Ms. Jill, Life in the Tax Lane is when? Oh, hold on just a second. I'll find out. Hold on just a minute. Life in the Tax. I love that, because I always say Life in the Tax Lane. I'm always singing.
Got a little beat to it.
I know it. It always has a little
It can look
Life in the Tax Lane.
Pretty ugly in cases. I think what people need to understand is during the marriage, you filed a joint return. So if there was a tax liability due, you're jointly and severally liable.
Okay, so we gonna have to reach out to we're gonna have to reach out to syndicate.
So it's like if there
we're gonna have to reach out to
debt due
on
during the marriage
.net, and we're gonna be joining in to Life in the Tax Lane on Wednesdays at noon on envision-radio.com. And then when you're ready to be motivated and inspired, listen to Live Your Best Life on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're writing a book, thinking about writing a book, tune into the Book Business Boss Show on Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Envision-Radio, where praise meets talk, taxes, credit, and building wealth. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.